And for Jacksonville offensively, obviously everybody wants to see Chase Young. I cannot wait to see this rush unit with Chase Young. I've given him his props. I think he's been a lot better. I think maybe this is his best year. He got a lot of credit for his rookie year, but this is his best year as far as consistently winning rushes. And for Steve Wilks, does that mean that you're going to blitz less? People complain about his play calling. Sometimes he's handcuffed because the pass rush isn't getting there. And you talked about Nick Bosa's comments this week. I can remember where we just rushed. And I think for a four-man rush unit, it can be frustrating to hear a blitz called because you don't have the same freedom in your rush lanes and that sort of thing. Okay, so the previews, man. Let's start with San Francisco, Jacksonville, because I think it's a really interesting game. I don't know who gave it out as a lock, but I love it.
Steve and I did.
Yeah, I love it. You gave it out. You gave out San Francisco. He gave out Jacksonville.
Niners have lost 3 in a row. Jacksonville has won 5 in a row.
Here's what I like for San Francisco. I think you've already heard Debo is going to come back. I think that's probably already out. The big question is Trent Williams getting back, because I think for San Francisco, you can see the effect of Debo being out in the passing game. I think like weeks 7 to 8, you could see Purdy throwing a lot of picks, especially in the middle of the field. And they're going to see cover 3 this week. These are areas of the field versus that coverage that Debo is going to be able to help out a lot with. And so I think having Debo back in the game would be huge in the pass game. But you know as well as I do, Kyle, everything comes off the run game for them. And they ran less outside zone without Trent Williams. Everything comes off of their ability to stretch the field horizontally with that run game behind Trent Williams. So if you can get him back, weeks 1 through 6, they're number 1 in run attempts. Weeks 7 through 8, they're bottom 10. And part of that is the game script in those games, but part of it is definitely Trent Williams. And like I said, it all comes off of the play, action, pass, moving people horizontally, being able to hit the second level, occupying linebackers' eyes. Jacksonville, bottom 10 in that area. So there are opportunities for San Francisco against Jacksonville.
2 things I'm looking at. Obviously, it's a long flight. So if you're coming back off of something, that's going to flare up on that flight. When you get there, you're going to try to get as loose as you can. But you talked about Trent and the run game. And I was talking to Dad on the phone yesterday, and we were just going through our week of prep. And he was like, what do you see if Trent's back, if Trent's not back? And I said, look, the reason he's so valuable in that running game is he's 2 different players for you in the run game. One, he's a front side tip of the spear kind of guy. And like you said, you want to stretch teams horizontally. Not only is he able to move, get his hands under guys and stretch them horizontally, he's gaining 2-3 feet off the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
So like he's putting a dent in the defensive line and
horizontal
he's stretching
and vertical.
You. So that running back who's pressing front side can leverage the linebacker over the top, gives him more space to leverage the linebacker, and then cut it back behind the center, underneath the backside B block, which is the right guard and the right tackle. So that's one player that Trent Williams is. The other guy he is on the backside.
Which is really important.
And I always say the backside is the front side in these run plays. So if we call inside zone to the right and I'm the left tackle, I know that if I dominate my block, whether it's a double team with the left guard or it's a solo block on the guy on the backside or it's climbing to the linebacker, Trent excels in all of those situations. And they all set up what, Chris? The play action.
The play action pass.
Getting on guys early, killing the rush, allowing Brock to throw unabated. That's where the success of this offense comes.
Dude, and here's the thing. You talk about the backside. I'll watch teams that are struggling in the run game. I'm going to talk about the Chargers in a second, their struggles. A lot of times, you've sat in meetings where they're like, if we just get this one more guy blocked, we are out the gate. And a lot of times it is that backside defender or that backside 3. And there's nobody more athletic and better on the backside outside of maybe Lane Johnson.
And savvy.
When it comes to savvy, getting that guy blocked or getting that guy down so that you have a pile of bodies on the backside. You even have to worry about it. So I think that's the big key is Trent going to be up? Can you cash in play action? Can your run game look like it looked like before he got hurt? And for Jacksonville offensively, obviously everybody wants to see Chase Young. I cannot wait to see this rush unit with Chase Young. I've given him his props. I think he's been a lot better. I think maybe this is his best year. He got a lot of credit for his rookie year, but this is his best year as far as consistently winning rushes. And for Steve Wilks, does that mean that you're going to blitz less? People complain about his play calling. Sometimes he's handcuffed because the pass rush isn't getting there. And you talked about Nick Bosa's comments this week. I can remember where we just rushed. And I think for a 4-man rush unit, it can be frustrating to hear a blitz called because you don't have the same freedom in your rush lanes and that sort of thing. So I want to see how it affects Steve Wilks. Like Jacksonville, the question for me is they're not going to be able to get much going in the run game if you look at these two teams stacked up. Can you make them one-dimensional for San Francisco? You like the matchups of Bosa and Harrison. You want to see Chase Young
Warner, ETN.
Against Cam Robinson or whoever's playing tackle. But the question for me is Trevor Lawrence versus cover 3, not great, right? He's going to get the ball out quick. He's going to hit the quick outs. I've watched his cover 3 cut up. He likes to dump the ball down to ETN in the middle of the field, right 5 yards, kind of sit there, and that's his answer for cover 3 if he doesn't like what he's getting. Those linebackers are going to make that really hard. And then the last thing for me is Calvin Ridley. I would move him around. They've had 414 snaps outside. When he was in Atlanta, he took a lot of snaps inside, and he was really good there. Can they move him inside for more than 61 snaps the back half of the season? Because you can get some really good matchups on guys like Lenore and Oliver. So that's the big question. Can San Francisco make them one-dimensional? And if they do, does Jacksonville have an answer to get the matchups they want? Trevor Lawrence, not great against pressure, bottom third, make the dump downs more difficult. I like San Francisco in this game.
I think this is a great opportunity for Lenore. You mentioned his name. These young guys are going to try to step up and make big plays. They know Jacksonville's hot. People are saying Jacksonville's the guy right now. San Francisco's like, don't forget, we are the guy. And they're getting their guys back.
This is that spot, right, where you buy them low and you figure, hey, off a buy, maybe Shanahan will be better.
And a reminder that Washington has gotten 2 third-rounders and a 5th-rounder in total in exchange for Trent Williams and Chase Young.
Oh, yeah.
It's not great.
Trent is yet to practice this week.
It's not great, but they made up for it with Montez Sweat a little bit.
That's right.
So Detroit and LA, I think this is a really interesting game because it's two teams going different places, it seems like. Possibly 2 ships passing in the night, but they both have favorable schedules down the stretch, especially Detroit. If you're trying to catch the Eagles and host playoff games throughout the playoffs at Ford Field, you haven't had a playoff game in fucking 20 years in that building since it's existed. Every January, it's just empty. They're doing like monster truck rallies. They want to hold some football games. And I think to do that, you look at 2 times Bears, 2 times Vikings, 1 time Packers, 1 time Broncos, Saints, and Dallas. That's who they have remaining. If you look at the Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants, Cards, Giants. So if the Eagles stumble, they could get going. And I'm not saying they're a better team, but if they get home field advantage, that's a great equalizer.
Where's that Dallas game for Detroit?
The Dallas game for Detroit is, I think, in Dallas. Detroit's offense.
Dallas.
Do you get Montgomery back? You're going to get Ragnow back. You probably get Jonah Jackson back. And you need these guys up front because all 40 snaps, Bosa, Thule, and Mack, when they're on the field together, they have 10 sacks for 40 snaps. They're batting 250 on getting the quarterback down when they're on the field together. And I love Thule because he adds an element of a guy inside who can string out plays. When you got 2 pass rushers on the and they run good games, but 2 pass rushers on the edge who are power guys and disrupt the pocket, you don't have to worry about it as much. This guy can string out a Zach Wilson or a panicking Jared Goff. So I love this unit, the way it's rounding into form. We talk about since Joey had 40 snaps a game, their pressure rate's way up.
And he's the one that really frustrates people is that third party there because you know what you're going to get in prep with those rush outside linebackers. You're going to have a tall task at tackle, but then you've got the entire unit having to have their antennae up for this guy inside because he's going to run the TT, the NT, the ET. He can go from anywhere. He can score from anywhere.
They run a lot of games, so you're going to need your savvy veterans. You're going to need your guys inside. When Jared Goff threw that pick 6 last week, it was inside pressure. It was an awful pick 6. He saw the pressure, and he just dumped it. And, that was what kept Vegas in the game. So more than anything, as a segue, Detroit needs to be better in the red zone. They came out of that game last week, and it probably felt like a loss.
Montgomery, you said it.
Montgomery's
such a big identity piece for that offense. You don't even have to block motherfuckers. He's going to get 3 to 5
Living
yards.
rooms,
He runs so hard.
Yes.
He runs so hard.
For 80 yards of the field, they dominated in the run game. And then when they got in the red zone, they had a hard time. Gibbs got a bounce play or 2. Gibbs broke some tackles, but
you need a knife guy. That's your knife guy.
That's your knife guy. So you have to get better in the red zone. I love the Gibbs matchup against the LA Chargers backers. The play action advantage you have. There's going to be a flooding of zones, people running through zones, playing the high-low game in the middle of the field. I like the matchup here. And on the other side of the ball, I really do. I'm not trying to stick with the take that the Chargers might be cooked because I picked them to win the division, which was stupid as fuck.
I'll put them in the Super Bowl.
You put them in the Super Bowl. We're dummies. They fool us every year. But just like the Bengals the other way. But for the Chargers, no Williams. That's been a long time. Palmer's new to IR. It's just too much on Justin Herbert. And a lot of these stats I'm going to give you are from a Daniel Popper article in The Athletic. But this Chargers run game is atrocious. It really is. I went through the whole tape. Since the Miami game, they have not been able to run the football. And part of that is because Eckler's been out. But even with him back, it just doesn't look the same. Okay? For a team that couldn't put Jacksonville away in the playoffs up 4 scores, you think they get this shored up. But up front is a disaster. You move Zion to the other side of guard. That's a tough ask. You know, he might really like that other side. Then you've got Will Clapp, everybody's favorite meme in there at center, but he's like 6'5". He can't tiptoe up to the second level. Sawyer, he's a big man. You can't get him out on the edge. So their personnel just doesn't really fit what they're trying to do. And when I watched the Bears game, they couldn't put that game away either. 15 rushes, 25 yards in the second half. 6 went for 0 or negatives. Worst rushing success rate in the NFL. And this was starting to be a problem for Kellen Moore in Dallas with a lead last year. Their success rate up a touchdown or more in the second half, 24%. And this year, they're 15% in the second half. They were never lower than 40% in general with Lombardi. And I think the personnel is tough. We talk about the offensive line. But they run a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, Kyle. And I think it's partially because they've got receivers hurt. They want to get the run game going. But these tight ends don't scare anybody in the passing game.
You got to spread these fuckers out. You got Justin Herbert. Threaten these guys from every inch of the football field. If you got a guy who can throw it there, make sure you have guys like options there. It makes the running game easier. You don't want to load it.
They're just running into heavy boxes.
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
They're running into heavy boxes. You throw these tight ends up. Other teams are like, they don't scare me. We're just going to knife in there and make plays in the run game. And they're the worst in the league in 13 run game. They're bottom 10 and 12. I would say, hey, Quentin Johnston's a guy you've started to use, right? He's a big cat. Maybe reduce him and build big wings with him. If he can block a little bit, block second-level guys, give some 12 looks with a guy reduced who kind of looks like a tight end.
You see the picture of Keenan Allen's shoulder?
Nah.
Did you guys see that? I guess he had a really bad AC injury in 2013, and he never got it fixed because he's just been.
So is it just like down?
Then. He's got a pyramid coming out of his right shoulder. It just comes up 5 inches. Like,
yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. That's wild.
Wow. Jeez. Yikes.
Yeah, it's like a knob.
He caught a ball the other night, and it was like
for his 10,000th or something.
He caught the ball. He caught the ball, did like a somersault, and then he got up and he said, "I do this shit." I was like, "Yes, you do. Keith.
Yes, you do, bro."
You do be.
I remember when he came in and visited the Rams, and we were all playing Madden in there in the players' lounge, which was dog shit in St. Louis, and he was getting a coffee, and we were just like, "Hey, what's your name?" The whole thing. At that point, there were injuries that made you think maybe he wouldn't be able to have the career that he's had. And hats off to that dude.
We took visits together. He's a good guy.
Him and Mike Evans are two guys that I just respect so much as big body, 50-50 ball kind of guys that they put their head down, they work, they're physical, they're good teammates. I got a lot of respect for him.
Johnson's playing well. Sitting there in the draft, Laporta, Kincaid, Mayer. They passed on all of the tight ends to take Quinn Johnston. Detroit, almost 400 yards offense this year, second in the league, and they're giving up 5th fewest. Detroit favored by 3 points in the game.
I like Detroit here. So I got it at 1. If you see me on Sunday tweeting about a cover and you're like, yeah, but they won by 2, that's why the early bird gets the worm.
Can I just tell you, I really enjoyed the Laporta interview.
He was great.
Yeah,
love that guy.
Good stuff.
Love that guy. St. Louis kid.
He's got a future in camera, TV,
in something,
entertainment,
in camera stuff.
Yeah, he's good.
Cincinnati's 5-3. They're hosting the Houston Texans at 4-4. Bengals are 7-point favorites. CJ Stroud on pace for 4,823 yards passing. For comparison's sake, Peyton Manning threw for 37-39 in his rookie year.
It's such an interesting.
Did he lead the NFL in picks too that year?
That was a bad year.
It's such an interesting game though because you had Chase with a back. Now I don't think he's going to be down, but like when you hear that T. Higgins comes up with a hamstring on a Wednesday, that's not good. Like it's not coming out of the game. He did something to his hamstring on Wednesday. We'll continue to monitor that. But like if you're Houston and you've got Chase and Boyd up, that changes things a little bit defensively for you. You could do the thing where you try to take Chase away. Don't put your best cover guy on him, but put 2 guys on him. And then your best cover guy, if you get Stingley back, you put him on Boyd and just try to erase Boyd. You got to watch out for the tight ends. They had a really good game last week with the tight ends. I think for Houston, yeah, you got to score with them, but at some point you're going to have to be physical offensively with this team. You can't go to Cincinnati on the road in November and win a football game without being physical. And the run game hasn't been great. I would continue to try to get Tank Dell involved in that situation. You see him catching jet sweeps and end arounds and that sort of thing. I've seen him in split backs in the backfield. Get creative. Try to manufacture a run game. It's kind of curious to me because that offensive coordinator has done such a great job, Kyle, but they haven't been able to cash in on Dameon Pierce and an offensive line that's gotten healthy. So as great as they've been, the run game is a concern. I think this is going to be an interesting game. Potential wild card implications if Bengals don't win the division. And you got to pissed off Joe Burrow because he got named the number 5 sexiest man alive behind Braxton Berrios. Who I didn't even know was hot.
Braxton Berrios, he's doing pretty well for himself.
Is he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm not as plugged
Kate,
in.
My wife showed me that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's into the whole, which influencers are with which players.
Kelsey's 1 and 2 sexiest.
The
man.
Kelseys.
Yeah.
Who got 1?
Travis, which is a travesty. But, I mean, anyways, the huge thing is going to be the health of those wide receivers. Stingley, do you get him back?
Look, you talked about their ability to throw the football, their ability to protect, and Tunk's been great and allows them to do a lot from a protection standpoint on their offensive line. And I'm going to be highlighting this heavyweight matchup, which is Lou Anarumo's defense and their ability to skies with their linebackers, Logan Wilson in particular.
He's great in coverage.
Playing traffic cop in the middle. And there's a couple of these guys across the league that we really like in the pass game, and they're just menaces. They're all over the field.
Pratt.
And they're on teams everywhere, but the matchup this week is Wilson against Stroud. I can't wait to watch it. You talked about some of the gadget plays with Tank Dell. I said just keep Tank Dell on the outside, motion him, find out what they're going to do from a coverage standpoint, and take shots to your guy that's been confident in you and him. But yeah, the matchup's going to be all about, can CJ Stroud find a way to see through the disguises that Anarumo puts on the field? But for that offensive line, some guys can protect really well. Some guys can't block in the run really well. Some of our favorite offensive linemen can do both very well.
Yeah.
So when you're watching the Texans, it's a group that protects well because Tunsil, their left tackle, can block his fucking nuts
He can erase
off
people.
one-on-one. He can run guys by every play at will, which lets that 4-man core, the rest of the group, be able to work things out amongst themselves.
And last week, CJ Stroud had 3-3 to throw. I mean, that's a lot of fucking time. The O-line played well. But again, 23 guys on the injury report on Wednesday. That's a lot. This is Stroud's toughest road test. And they haven't exactly lit the scoreboard up on the road this year outside of that Jacksonville game, which I don't want to look at like an anomaly because they've done that at other points. But I don't think they scored 20 on the road any other time. So this is going to be a game where 20 is not going to cut it. You got to score with this team, and then you got to take the ball away. And like Will Anderson's got 2 sacks on the year. I don't make a big deal about rookie sack numbers for defensive linemen, especially because coming in, I didn't think Will Anderson was going to be this elite, 10-sack guy. What he is he's a really good football player who can do everything. And I saw some power rushes last week that are encouraging. So he's going to work that power game this week. Joe Burrow likes a Tom Brady-like pocket. The big key with Joe Burrow is, if you're playing Joe Burrow or Tom Brady, you have to reset the line of scrimmage the way you talk about it in the run game.
Don't give him a pocket.
In the middle, and I think power rushing works well against a guy like Joe Burrow if you can get him to pat the ball a little bit. Grenard and him have to win. It's not cutting time for this team. You want to be a playoff team, you got to have rushers that get home, and these guys got to turn some of these pressures into sacks.
Deshaun Watson is 0-3 in division games on the road since his Browns career began in December. Cleveland 5-3 at Baltimore 7-2. Ravens favored by 6 points. It's too many points, Chris.
It's a lot of points. And, I think people are going to look at that first matchup and say, hey, they blew them out in Cleveland. I have reason to believe this is going to be a closer game. But if you're Cleveland, this is what it comes down to. Deshaun Watson, everything he's done before this point is irrelevant. Okay, you're back. You're healthy-ish. It is time to win a big game. It is time to beat a team in the AFC North that looks like the class of the NFL in the Ravens. You got a number 1 defense statistically and a team that kicked your ass like a month ago. So this is an opportunity. There's no excuse.
And they're in a better place now.
They're in a better place now. The run game has been humming, even without Chubb. I mean, humming's aggressive, but it's there. The defense is held up there under the bargain. It's time. And, for that defense, look at Seattle last week for the Ravens. Who's got better wide receivers, Cleveland or Seattle?
Seattle.
Okay, who's got a better quarterback? Who do you trust more right now at this stage in their career?
Seattle.
Push.
Okay, so
Push. There is no push.
This is going to be a big challenge for the Cleveland offense. I mean, teams are coming into Baltimore and getting their asses kicked. It's like a house of horrors, and that's what you got to do. And it makes it scary in the AFC if you think, what does this team look like if they get home field advantage? Because if a big physical team hosts you in January, it's like the worst thing in the world. Like that is a nightmare for teams having to come into that place. And Wills is down. DeJuan Jones is on the injury report. If those guys are both down, Baltimore's got to cash in.
You guys think it's too many points. I think it's not enough points.
I didn't say it's too many points. I said people are going to think it's too many points because of because that you could think about this two ways. Oh, it's going to be the same. Or, hey, gambling 101. Like the public's going to be on Baltimore because
there's one guy that got to slow down for Cleveland. Number 95.
Yeah.
It's the only guy you got to worry about.
Yeah.
The rest of your matchups favor you guys. And Lamar is the guy that pushes any stalemate towards you. So I think it's not even going to be close. The Ravens are humming right now.
Kyle, on paper, it looks that way, but this is a weird league. And, like for the Ravens, you got to start getting Odell going. That'd be one thing. Like last week, I thought Odell was pressing. Like, you could see him on the sideline. He's frustrated. I've been there where you want to get, for a defensive end, you want to get your sacks, you want to get your snaps, like whatever. Odell wants to get his touches.
Just ask Pickens.
He wants to justify, we'll talk about George in a second, but he wants to justify being paid $18 million. Like that means something to him. I know he's a player with pride and that cares a lot about the product he puts on the field. He's just got to be patient. You catch a ball, you can't have it out here trying to make a play last week that ends up in a fumble. For the Ravens, the thing that sinks them is second quarter turnovers, okay, if anything. And I had Nolan look this up last week as those turnovers happened in the second quarter of last week's game. They didn't need the possessions. They just threw them away, and they still blew those guys out, Kyle. But in the second quarter games, they've turned the ball over 7 times. In all the other quarters, it's 2, 2, and 2. So there is something going on before they get to the half where either they're not disciplined or they're losing focus and they're letting games extend longer than they should. And that's going to hurt you when you play a team that's worse than you. It's also going to hurt you when you play good teams in your division. So you got to cut that out. But you're healthier now. Your run game's in a better place. You got Mitchell last week, who really came on. Having that third back in the backfield is great, especially against a physical team like this. I do like the Ravens. I won't bet it.
You're not betting this.
I'm not betting this. It's one game. It's one game.
This might be my tattoo lock of the
Dog.
week. Tattoo permanent bet.
Deshaun has started 4 games this season. Cleveland's 3-1. They're outscoring opponents 73-29. Y'all are talking about the first meeting. That was DTR.
Yep.
Cleveland wins the game. Cleveland wins the game.
I like the over here.
I thought we liked the under.
I don't like the
Cleveland
under.
wins the game.
Cleveland wins the game.
If I had to, because it just,
Do you want to put money on that?
Yeah.
it's
How much?
$100.
$200.
Ooh.
$250.
$300.
$300.
Money line.
Whoa, hold on a minute there.
Money line?
I know I just said Cleveland wins the game. Hold on. Why don't you give me a few points
No,
here?
we just shook on 300.
That's kind of how it works.
You did just say
I
they
wanted
won
to be
the game.
No.
crystal clear.
Everything that y'all are saying is right and fair, but I wasn't thinking money line when I was shaking your hand.
You said that the Browns will win the game.
Can I cash out at like
Said-
$70?
Yeah.
Can I cash $70 right now?
So you just pay me 70 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And then we'll bet 100 on the spread.
You guys can work
I'm
this
going to
out.
pay you 70.
This is good.
Right
I
now.
understand how this works. That's not happening. We shook. I look forward to the game.
Wow. That's tough stuff.
Moving on. I've seen the real estate
Good
market
to have
right
you in
now.
here. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Yeah, I'm on my Game Time app right now. I'm looking at Virginia Tech tickets. Maybe we'll win one of those at some point. We did it with Bryce Perkins. Anyways, I keep scrolling on the app. I'm going to get tickets to the Commonwealth Cup. Game Time makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, even last-minute deals. I know because I always wait till the last minute. You can preview the views from all your seats in the venue and Game Time's lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, protects my tickets. That's what I need. Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code GREENLIGHT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code GREENLIGHT. GREENLIGHT. That's the code for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey, we're moving to the mid-tier.
Mid-tier, you got 3 minutes a game here. It'd be great to be done through.
I forgot we had a timer.
We got a timer.
Up.
Hey, we were pretty good on the 5-minute timer on the marquee games.
The Washington team is in Seattle.
Oh, buddy. You want to talk about rolling momentum on top of momentum. You watch that Seahawks defense. You watch Washington's quarterback. I fucking love it. Magic Johnson says they're mixing it up, the run and the pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could just fucking pass with this guy Sam Howell because he is the guy in Washington. Talked about him not throwing the ball early enough, taking a lot of sacks. It looks a little bit better now. It feels like he's getting more comfortable, seeing the field easier. I look forward to Washington, Seattle.
Past 2 weeks, sacked just 4 times.
Yeah, things have changed a little bit, but this is his toughest road test. He said earlier this week, hey, Lane Stadium's louder than the NFL. Well, he hasn't played up there in Seattle with those caffeinated hipsters going off. The 12s, dude, they're going to go nuts. It's a loud place. It's hard to hear yourself think. And the protection is going to be an issue at times. I think, like, hey, Kyle, you played with both tackles. I think the key to this game for Seattle is this guy Mafe making waves, being a terror out there. Who do you think he matches up better with, considering he's like a Cliff Averill type guy?
Well, look, I'm going to set the stage here for the matchup. You're on the road. What do you want as an offensive line coach if you're going on the road? You want 2 tackles with experience. Andrew Wiley's won a Super Bowl. Charles Leno, a guy who's been everywhere, done everything except for win a Super Bowl. I think when you're going against Leno knows exactly what you're trying to do, and he will morph his game week in, week out to try to match favorably with what you're doing. I'm talking one-step drops, quick sets, chase down technique, play action stuff. He's incredible with his hand. So if you're going against Leno, you're going to want to work that outside hand. He's incredible with his outside hand. Always has been. Has really good feet, which save him. But the hand, if you can get that outside hand, it's tough sledding for any offensive lineman. For Wiley, he's really aggressive. I love his game plan. I feel like when we would sit and film,
Tries to bring the fight to the
when we would sit and film together in Kansas City, usually I'd look at a guy and be like, this is what I think that you should try to do. I would never have anything for him because he would do things exactly as I would try to do. Get your hands on guys.
Guard stuff.
Early as possible in the down. He's a guy that's played guard. He's played tackle in Kansas City. He did it all.
Yeah.
So for Mafe, just, he's going to be bringing the fight to Mafe, and I look for him to be less affected by that crowd noise than you would imagine.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting with Sam and his clock. It has bounced around. Like you talk about the first Eagles game, he's holding the ball almost 3 seconds, then he's 2-4 something. So how quickly can you get the ball out of his hands? And then I think for Seattle, I'll say this until they start doing it. If you can't cash in the red zone, if you're not good on third down, you are not going to win games down the stretch in the NFL. If your run defense plays like it played last week, you are not going to win games in the NFL. And I fully expect Seattle to come out like a bunch of pissed off, caged animals, man, because that week of lowlights that they probably saw in their meeting room, I've been in defensive meeting rooms like that. Teams come out hot, especially at home. And my last question for you before we move to the next game, Kyle. Sam Howell's going to have his, oh shit, this is the NFL moment. It's November. It's Seattle. What was your oh shit NFL moment on the road?
Well, I had plenty of oh shit moments, whether it was at home or on the road. But my first, this is the NFL moment was, I remember it was on the 2-yard line. This was in 2013. Monday Night Football. We were at the then named Heinz Field playing against Kiesel and Paul Malu.
All the guys you watch.
And I remember I'm down in my stance. We're about to run the ball right off my left ass cheek inside, duo on the, inside low red. And Malu was at 6 yards. He comes flying down to go blitz, and we went hard count. And he stopped, and his hair swung and almost touched my face, and it came back. And I remember it was like one of those like wrinkle in time moments. The play happened. I mauled everybody in front of me, got up off the ground. He was in my face. He happened to be there. He wasn't talking shit. I said, I thought you were coming. He goes, me too.
That's good. That's awesome. Moment. We all have those moments.
Mine
was probably
Kiesel
forgetting.
Pushed me over a pile, and I was like, you fucking asshole. He goes, yep.
Mine was missing a peel in the red zone on a key possession down in Atlanta. It was so fucking loud, and I came off the field to Rick Venturi just calling me a fucking asshole, just walking away from me, calling me an asshole. He never liked me since. Then he got fired. I don't think he likes me to this day, but there is that moment for every rookie where it's just like, wow. I mean, like, this is a different game, and it's a different game on the road. And for a quarterback, I can't imagine the pressure he's going to feel up there. This is going to be a big test.
My oh shit NFL moment was sitting in the wrong section at NRG Stadium for the entire first half of the 28-3 Super Bowl.
I forgot my ticket to that game. Remember that?
Something in the air.
It's a disaster.
That was good.
Washington has yet to beat a team with a winning record. Atlanta's at Arizona. Atlanta 4-5, favored by 1.5. Arizona is 1-8, and they mustered 58 total yards against the Cleveland
Come on, Cardinals.
By the way, while we're here, I like Seattle money line.
No, I'm good.
Okay. He's just giving out
money line. Thank you for stating the terms, though, ahead of the handshake.
Atlanta, Arizona. What are we doing with Kyler Murray? I don't know, but if you look at like the time to get him back this week, you get the Falcons defense. We saw them last week. Cardinals, Rams, before you see a ferocious D-line. This is a nice stretch to get Kyler back in it. I don't know if they're trying to drive up his trade value. I don't know if they want to keep him, but supposedly he's looked good in practice. I just think it's crazy. Coming off an ACL is one thing, but being a quarterback mid-season, just dropping in with no training camp, nothing.
A quarterback of his style as well.
What's it going to look
like?
Like?
Move around a lot.
How's he going to feel?
In the ground, yeah.
How confident is he going to be?
There's a lot there.
James Conner's off IR, so he's practicing. You might see him. But I think this is going to be really interesting. I had the over at 41. It's ballooned up a little bit. It's a back against the wall game for the Atlanta defense. The same way we just talked about Seattle. That was hideous what they let Josh Dobbs do to them. I talked about that back-breaking conversion. You're getting ready to play a scrambling quarterback. Last week you played, a guy that can run around. Like that was willing to run around. And I think like a scientist that could run a 5 flat. Mm-hmm. This guy is a fucking gamer that can run a 4.3. Yeah, and he's this tall. So you got to watch out. Back against the wall game for Atlanta. And for Atlanta, Jaron Hall had them down there ready to score. Like he pumped Okudah out of his shoes and they hit the deep ball. And then at the goal line, Okudah, as we said earlier this week, introduced him to Joseph Smith for a moment. And Okudah just lights him up in the goal line and the whole game changes after that. So we can talk about the defense all you want. Heineke's got to throw the ball to his team. Heineke's got to beat the guy that we've been talking about. You got him stashed. It's time to have a quarterback with the upside that doesn't turn the ball over. And he was spraying the ball last week. It is an upgrade over Ritter, but they can be better. I want to see Heineke be better.
They laughed at me in here last week when I said Minnesota was going to beat Atlanta.
Well, I knew he'd say that, but he also thought Jaron Hall was going to beat the Falcons.
And a lot happened there, didn't it?
A lot happened.
New Orleans and Minnesota are both 5-4.
New Orleans and Minnesota, 5-4.
Saints are 3-point favorites on the road.
And if you're the Saints, you cannot afford. I mean, the Saints had the Chicago Bears shrink wrapped and ready to send to market a couple days ago, and they kept them in the game. They kept them in the game. You know what I mean? Like, if you're playing somebody not named the Chicago Bears, you need to be able to put them away. And if you're playing the Vikings, it's an opportunity. You have a better offense. You have the weapons on the field that can win you football games, be explosive. The defense was playing really well early on this season. Need to see them step up against the Vikings. You can't give a team like that life.
This is the ultimate Josh Dobbs. Like, it's either going to be Josh Dobbs as a hero or Josh Dobbs just looks awful this weekend. There's no in between. I really feel like either this is going to be Linsanity or we're going to be like, what the fuck? And for me as a gambler, I have the Minnesota under win total at 8.5. And this Josh Dobbs thing, I want to enjoy it. So what do I do? You know, like I want to be able to root for Minnesota. What the fuck do I do, guys? Do I just put Minnesota in a bunch of big teasers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bet Minnesota till you're.
You just take your medicine.
Well, no, I'm not going to take my medicine. It doesn't taste good to not be able to root for Josh Dobbs. I think the big key to this game, and one more thing on Josh Dobbs. What a business we were in, Kyle, where I don't know how many professions, and there are a few, where you can meet somebody for the first time and say, I have to trust you today. Like with everything, I have to trust you.
Substitute teacher.
And then 3 hours later.
Real estate's like the biggest investment.
Bus
You're
driver.
right.
School bus driver.
Yeah.
But 3 hours later, and maybe it is real estate. 3 hours later, it's like, I just met you, but I love you.
Air traffic controller.
And they don't get the same, like that same warm welcome. The air traffic controller doesn't get to walk into a locker room after.
You're right.
But it's just such a cool thing when it comes to the NFL. Like you and I have suited up with a bunch of guys that we just met. And
we're brothers.
And
today.
we become brothers, over the course of a game or a season.
I remember Mitch Unrein was a D lineman who came to us. We were in Seattle playing, and I remember he's from Wyoming. So he was living in Wyoming, got signed, met us at the hotel in Seattle. We rode the bus together to the walkthrough the day before. And I was going against him the whole practice. And by the end of it, he had hand swiped me a dozen times, and I was pissed about it. And I was like, look, we're either going to fucking hate each other or be like best buds. Still buddies with Mitch Unrein, this fucking league.
And it's crazy, this league. I mean, like people just show up on Wednesday and you got to depend on them. They show up on Friday. But I think the key to this game is actually going to be on the other side of the ball. I think Kevin O'Connell's a great coach. When looking at that tape, being able to get not only Jaron Hall ready to play and look like a decent quarterback at times, but to get Josh Dobbs to just know the offense and go through it. The other side of the ball, Carr against the blitz, okay? When he got heated up a lot against Tampa Bay, 36% of the snaps, they lost 26-9. He was 23 for 37 for a whopping 127 yards. We know Derek Carr doesn't like the blitz. We know Derek Carr doesn't like pressure. Brian Flores is great at this. Kamara against Josh Metellus, if they're playing man, that's going to be a huge matchup. So, that's it for me. And Daniil Hunter, who nobody talks about. I mean, he's got 81 sacks in his career. He's damn near leading the league right now. There's going to be a fish out there for New Orleans. There's been a fish out there every week of the season so far. So how can you cover the stench of that fish? Can Carmichael figure out a way to get him blocked?
I don't talk about fish. I don't think they exist.
Yeah.
Linemen that can't make blocks. I just don't think they exist.
Interestingly,
there's plenty of fish, Kyle.
Yeah.
Y'all two became brothers the day Kyle was born.
Yeah. He just showed up.
And you said, hey there.
Yeah, he showed up, and I was like, I guess I got to.
Fuck.
I'm going to accidentally hit this kid with a baseball
That
bat
happened.
one day.
Talk about it.
It was bad.
Yeah.
There was so much blood.
It was so much blood.
But I didn't plan to do that. Not when
Chris was okay. A little backstory. We were living in California. We had a tennis court.
Yeah.
Chris was hitting rocks somewhere from the tennis court out of the
into
fence,
the woods.
and
yeah.
I was bringing him rocks. And one time, Chris was mid swing. I walked into it, caught me in the head.
36 stitches. I'll never forget.
And then I played Oregon Trail every day in middle school for the rest of my life.
But otherwise, I'm
still in middle school.
Otherwise, it's been a really good run for you and me.
Colts are favored by 2 over the Patriots in Germany.
Yeah, you know what? And I really think, the German fans got an opportunity to see the Dolphins, and the German fans got an opportunity to see the Chiefs. Okay, so we've done that. We did the sexy.
They saw World War II last week. They're going to see World War I this week. Trench warfare.
It's going to be the Dark Ages, and you know what? It's. You were talking about the end for Bill Belichick, and what's it going to be like? Who are they? And I really feel like this game is a microcosm of what's happening because they're going to play a Colts team that has to run the football game to win and have to play defense to win. And that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're going to run the shit out of the ball against the Patriots. If they get out ahead early, it could be a very short game for those German fans.
Now, the Colts have bled a lot of yardage on defense. I don't know if Mac Jones is going to be able to take advantage with the guys he has outside, which that list is dwindling. I think when you look at everything that we've heard this week about this game being Bill Belichick's last stand, so to speak, if you believe that, Do you remember Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Do you remember how Walter White went out? I thought it was kind of unceremonious. Like the season where he's holed up in the cabin and then he's getting sprayed with automatic gunfire. He's in like he's holed up in a garage or something. Like I was kind of like, this isn't how the show's supposed to end. And I feel like it's the same thing with Bill. This isn't how the show's supposed to end. Now, Don Shula, his last game was, I think, a wild card game in 1995. Like when you look at some of these great coaches on this list, they have more graceful exits a lot of times. For Bill to go out like this, if this is how it happens, I just feel really bad because, whether it's J.C. Jackson not making the trip, the turnovers this year, the lack of sound situational football, the going to Germany and if it's Gardner Minshew that buries you, like this
you would want a gardener to plant you though.
Yeah, that's right.
Good, Kyle.
This is unceremonious, man, and there's no other way around it. He's coached himself in this position. We were talking earlier about like, would he be there? Would he be in this situation if there were a GM in house? Because you were saying, oh, they passed up on this guy, or they passed up on this guy. I still think he can coach. The thing I brought up earlier in this week is if he gets another opportunity after this, if this is truly the end, or if Robert says, hey, you got to stick around, but there's some contingencies. I think the contingency is you don't buy the groceries and fix dinner. You just fix dinner. Like, we don't need you going to Whole Foods. Just worry about the dinner.
How's he going to respond to that?
And I don't know if he's going to walk off, take his apron off, and say, hey, fuck this shit, I'm out. But I don't think he's going to have a lot of options.
This actually, now that you're saying it, is the plot to The Bear, which is a great show that you can watch on
Hulu.
Netflix?
What is it?
Hulu. Hulu. The Bear is about a guy, Michelin star chef. He's like, chef of the year, and he works at this big restaurant, but his brother dies back home, so he has to go back home, takes over his brother's middling beef restaurant in Chicago. This is just telling me that Bill Belichick should be the coach of the Chicago Bears.
Speaking of beef, did you see the back straps on him walking out of
I did.
that apartment? Mm-hmm. Is that him?
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible. And it's obviously the summertime. So don't get it twisted. It's not like after he lost the Commanders, he went to Nantucket and hit one of his honey holes. I think it would be sweet. I think it was the summer, and I love the fact that this guy is comfortable enough with himself to walk outside with his shirt off, and he should be because he looks fucking tremendous, dude. He looks better with his shirt off than with his shirt on, and I just wanted to tip my cap to him. But another thing in a long line of stuff that I think is just it sucks that it's going on right now as he gets ready to make his last stand. Whatever you're looking forward to this football season, there's one thing that pairs well with every great moment, an ice-cold Miller Lite. Whether you're at the stadium playing fantasy football or watching the game at home or the bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. No matter what team you're rooting for, there's one thing we can all agree on. Football brings us together. A connection like that deserves to be celebrated, and Miller Lite wants you to celebrate with me during the NFL Conference Championships in January. Right now, Miller Lite is giving you the chance to win a trip for two to come hang out in the Green Light Studio. You'll fly out to Charlottesville, Virginia, and tune in to the NFL Conference Championships with me and the Green Light crew. Then you'll sit in on a live Green Light podcast session. Just go to MillerLite.com/GreenLightSweeps to enter. From kickoff till the final whistle, you can't go wrong with the Miller Lite in your hand. Celebrate Miller time with the Green Light Podcast. Go to MillerLite.com/GreenLightSweeps to enter for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Starts 11/6/23 and ends 12/4/23 at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Must be a legal resident of one of the 50 U.S. states or Washington, D.C., 21 years of age or older. Void where prohibited. See official rules at www.millerlite.com/greenlightsweeps for entry, instructions, odds, prizes, and restrictions.
And we're on to the low tier. We'll start with Tennessee and Tampa Bay.
I love this one.
We have a minute to break these down, and when that clock stops, we stop talking about these games. You got to earn our analysis.
I'll watch the clock.
Levis watched what CJ did last week. Levis is a fearless quarterback. He can't wait to get out there. He played well against Pittsburgh. I think he's going to play even better against this team.
Kyle, I'm drinking the mayo, although I do think this might be a Tampa Bay spot. I think earlier in the week I was thinking it was a Vrabel spot. I think it might be a Tampa Bay spot. It's all about who can take advantage of the matchups outside better. Because in the passing game, I think both teams are going to have opportunities. Whose receivers do you like better? You know, which quarterback do you like better?
Levis.
But I don't know. Like this is game
Because I love
two.
Baker on some days.
Kyle, I'm drinking the mayo.
Great.
I'm drinking the mayo. I like Will Levis. I'm rooting for him. But this is it's early in his career. I think he could be there a long time playing quarterback. But like your third game, you got 2 games of tape on him. Todd Bowles going to heat him up.
Green Bay's at Pittsburgh.
Aaron Jones. Need to have Aaron Jones early and often. Got to start fast if you're Green Bay.
That's
Otherwise,
it.
You're behind the 8 ball.
That's it. And they used him more.
And you're not built to throw the ball down the field. We've seen that.
I just want to say this one thing, and I'm on the under here. But like George Pickens is one of my favorite players. Okay? I understand you're frustrated, big fella. You should be. It's malpractice that you're in this offense catching the ball in this situation because I think you could be a Hall of Famer. But play the long game.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's that talented. But play the long game. Play the long game a little bit. You know, right now, you're not happy with Matt Canada. You're not happy with Kenny Pickett. These aren't going to be the 2 guys probably your entire career. And this is going to be a blip on the radar screen. So turn this into motivation. You know, I know he had some comments this week. He unfollowed Kenny Pickett, his social media thing. First off, if you want to get traded in the NFL, agents, you know, like you don't want this attached to your name.
Yeah.
And I also know that he this week was kind of like, hey, I was frustrated, the whole thing. He had conversations with Deontay. He had conversations with Najee. I don't know the whole situation, but I do know from the outside looking in, George Pickens, you're a great player, man. Just put your head down and work. Everybody sees it. Hang in there. And don't do it that way. Do it the right way. If you want to get traded next year, make it happen.
You can double up on respect earned if you just
put
go
your
in
head
there
down.
And ball out.
Yeah, be the reason that somebody turns on tape and be like, but this George Pickens guy, holy shit.
You're right.
2-7. 2-7 Giants are at the 5-3 Cowboys. Totals 38.5. Line is up to 17.
I'm going over.
You're going over? Yeah, he likes the Cowboys. I have a hard time believing the Cowboys don't win by 20 points. But this is the most interesting question that comes out of this game. Toughest backup QB assignment of the past couple years. We were looking at it. This has got to be up there. You go to Dallas with this offense, DeVito. You know, like, I don't know if when they signed Barkley, he's like, yes, please. Like, they might play Matt Barkley. But he's going to be starting in Jerry's world. And I don't know if you remember these, but the Kendall Hinton game against the Saints, that had to be number 1, right? You don't even play quarterback. You got to go out there during the pandy because
we
the
had
entire
Jimmy
room.
Clausen against the Legion of Boom in Seattle.
That's fucking tough too.
And Cliff Averill was like, "Keep throwing that ball along. Keep throwing that ball."
Unbelievable.
I was like, "Stop talking to me."
Yeah, please.
Cliff.
But you had the Kendall Hinton game against the Saints, which I think the over hit, and I had the under. It was like 37 or 38, and the over hit. That's the only reason I remember that game. But then, do you remember the 2013 wildcard game when Joe Webb had to take the field for the Vikings? He went 11 for 30 against the Packers for 180 yards.
Jeez.
So being a backup quarterback.
That was Clay and Pep and all those dudes.
You know, he's had a couple warm-ups, but it's not going to be like this. This is totally different.
Yeah, Jerry's world. That's a spectacle for this guy.
Yeah.
New York Jets at Las Vegas Raiders.
I don't know. Can we take the time we went over on the other 3 games not to talk about this game?
Can we just say Max Crosby?
Keys to the game. Max Crosby. I also think this is a game that the Jets should win. Okay, you don't win this game, you got to sit this quarterback.
You can't be out charismaed by the Vegas Raiders every week. Okay, we got to just go play football. All right,
we got to
they had their week.
Take their charisma
Super
away.
Bowl.
If you don't win this game and you're the Jets, you absolutely have to find a new quarterback. And we talked about this earlier in the week.
Aaron Rodgers back there.
I don't know if both of you were in here for this, but. And maybe we were talking to Steve about it, Kyle. But when you think backup quarterback, you think cagey, you think high floor, you think a guy who can play in different offenses. Zach Wilson is a developmental piece with a high ceiling, but that can't do the easy stuff,
Yeah,
right?
he's the opposite of a backup because you want the backup to have a high floor. He's got a high ceiling. You want the backup to be a guy who's not going to fuck up the game.
How many points does Colt McCoy score a game with this team?
It's a good
14
question.
to 17? That'll do. That'll do, donkey.
If you played for the Chiefs and you give up 20 points a game, you might be undefeated.
Exactly.